Good evening and welcome to Cinda's Delish. Tonight we're going to make bourbon chicken like you get in the food court at the Asian markets, at the Asian restaurants in the food court. And it was generated from Bourbon Street from a Chinese cook on Bourbon Street, and this is how he made it. So I'm going to replicate this recipe for you tonight, and we're just going to love it. So you start out with 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You use the thighs over the breast because it's more moist and meaty. It doesn't dry out so much. I bought Sanderson's Farms chicken thighs. They're boneless and skinless. But you still want to go over them and remove any excess skin and check to make sure all the bones are out of it. So I'm going to take a very sharp knife, and it's very important that you use a very sharp knife so you can cut this extra fat off, because you can cut yourself worse with a dull knife more than ever. So make sure your knife's very sharp. And if you're not sure about what knives to get, I went with the Barberware Butcher Block set, but you can always Google and find the best knives for you. But you always want a sharp knife. So we're going to cut this excess fat off of here. Just like that. And you just kind of pull it up and cut it with your knife. And get all that excess off. And then after you get all the excess fat off and make sure there's no bones left in there, you will chop it into 1-inch squares, and you're going to put it into a marinating dish so we can marinate this. We marinate this for 6 hours up to 24 hours. It depends on how long you like to marinate it. I prefer to marinate it 24 hours, so I put it in the night before, and then when I come home from work, or if it's a Saturday or Sunday, when I come in the evening to cook, I bring it out to prepare it. I can see they have a little piece of cartilage on here and some bone, so we're going to get all that out of there. We're going to carefully cut around there with our knife, watching our fingers, because, you know, our digits are very important. So we're going to gently cut around there where you don't want to remove too much extra meat on there. So you just kind of grab a hold of it and cut it the best you can. And be very careful, because this meat makes your fingers real slippery. So we're going to get this excess fat on there. I'm going to run my knife blade through this and just lightly cut it away. And if you pull up on the excess fat, it's easier to trim it away. Just like that. Here we go. Get all this done. I've already cut up the other thighs, so we'll be ready to get it in the marinade. I just wanted to demonstrate to you how to get the extra fat off and bones if there are any in there. Perfect. So we're going to cut this into 1-inch pieces. And then we're going to put it in our bowl. Sometimes as you're chopping it up, you can find some little pieces of fat you might have left behind. Just trim it away. No big deal. Just trim it away. We're going to trim this up. They're 1-inch pieces, just like that. And we're going to throw it in our marinating bowl right over next door to us. Perfect. So we got all that chopped up. I'm going to remove this chicken board and wash my hands in the sink very good, because you don't want to get cross-contamination or salmonella in any of your food. So I'm going to go wash my hands and set this over there. Perfect. I got my hands all washed up, and as you can see, I had put another additional cutting board on top of my original cutting board, so I can move that away quickly with the chicken that I chopped up so I don't cross-contaminate. It's good to have several cooking boards in your kitchen, and knives that are sharp. So in this dish we have 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs that we've chopped into 1-inch pieces. We're going to add 1½ cups of brown sugar, 1 1/3 cup of soy sauce, which I like to use less sodium soy sauce, or reduced sodium soy sauce. Really help keep the sodium down. And then we're going to use equal parts of bourbon. I did say it was bourbon chicken, and I got Evan Williams bourbon for this. And we're going to use 1/3 cup of that. Perfect. And it calls for a teaspoon of ground ginger. Now you can use the powdered ground ginger that you find in the spice section, but I love this ginger that's a Gourmet Garden. I find it in the produce section, and it just has so much more flavor. So we're going to use, and you can do equal parts. If it calls for a teaspoon of ground ginger, you can do a teaspoon of this paste. So we're going to put that in. Also calls for a tablespoon of white vinegar. So we're going to pour that in. Calls for a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. So we're going to put that in. Just kind of level it off. Just like that. Alright, I think we have all of our ingredients in here. So we're going to stir this together and let this marinate, and we're going to put a cover over it, put it over in our refrigerator and let it marinate. So we have all of our ingredients in here. We're going to stir this well and get it all incorporated. And I always like to use a glass dish to marinate in, because any acidic stuff, you don't want to use your plasticware with the lid on it. I prefer not to use plasticware, because if it's acidic or anything like that, I think it eats away at the plastic. So I prefer the glassware. So we're going to make sure this is all well incorporated. And it's all covered up. I'm going to stir it real well. Make sure I get all that sugar dissolved and all the flavors together. So I also like to add some fresh ground pepper. You know how I'm with my pepper meal. Just love it. So we'll add that in. So you can prepare this in the morning before you go to work, or the night before after your meal from the last night, however you want to do it, and have it ready to go for the next day. It's a good do-ahead meal, so you want to plan on how to make it. And we're going to serve it over rice. And when it's finished marinating for 24 hours, I'm going to show you how to prepare it and serve it. So we're going to stir this together with the black pepper I just added. I'm going to cover it with some cling wrap. And we are going to put it in the refrigerator and forget it. Thanks for joining me tonight on Cinda's Delish. I really appreciate all the comments and likes you give me. So continue to do that. And if you my first time joining me, hit the subscribe button so you get notifications. And I always have the links below on my recipes and the ingredients that I use. So thank you for joining me tonight on Cinda's Delish. So we got our chicken out of the fridge. It's been marinating for at least 7 hours, or overnight you can marinate it. What we're going to do is we're going to drain the marinade off and reserve it, because we're going to use the marinade back into it after we cook it to make our gravy or sauce for our bourbon chicken. All right. Move this over here. I got a fine sieve drainer here. Just give this a little stir. And we're going to just slowly drain it into this pan. Just like that. Perfect. Alright, on the stove, we're going to have our pot heated up to medium-high heat. And we're going to spray it with some oil. Even though it's non-stick, you still want to spray a little oil in there. And hear it heating up. And we're going to make some pot stickers to go with this bourbon chicken today with some rice. I got rice on the stove. It's 2 cups of Zatarain's long grain rice. It's parboiled, so it's one of the better rices to use. If you can't find this, you can get Uncle Ben's. It's another pre-cooked rice too that that cooks well. If you don't, your rice just turns into mush. These are really good rice to use. So we got it on the back burner, and we're going to bring it up to a boil. It's 2 cups of water to 2 cups of rice. We're going to bring it up to a boil. Once it comes up to boil, we're going to simmer it for 15 minutes. All right, our pan's getting hot. I'm going to add our chicken in there. Get it just cooking. All right, that's cooking away. And on this other skillet, I have my pot stickers in there. So I've got a little bit of oil, about a tablespoon of oil on the bottom. And then I've got the pot stickers laid down, flat side down. And then you're going to bring those up to, you're going to put the burner on high for that and get them sizzling because you want to sear them and get them brown. Then we're going to add some water to it. And the pot stickers come with this little seasoning dipping sauce for you to dip your pot stickers in. It's really yummy. If not that, you can use sweet and sour sauce or soy sauce or something you like. All right, this is starting to cook here. Getting it going. And once again, this kitchen's going to be smelling so good. All right. We have been having some cloudy weather the last few days. It's just been gloomy out there. It's not been cold, which is a good thing. Now we're here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, near Biloxi, where the casinos are. Okay, we got our stove going. I'm using almost all my burners today. It's going to be a good day for cooking. I appreciate you joining me at Cinda's Delish and cooking with me on this bourbon chicken. You're really going to love it. It may take a little time for the marinating, but after that, it is so easy. Just put it in the skillet and brown it up, and then we're going to thicken this sauce up with some cornstarch. All right, I'm going to leave the lid off because I don't want this to stew, or I just want it to kind of sear. So I'm going to leave the lid off. So I brown this chicken up and get it a golden color. Then we want to brown at least 6 to 8 minutes or 8 to 10 minutes. You want to make sure it's good and cooked through. Chicken's one of those meats you can't eat rare or medium rare. It has to be fully cooked through. And again, I use the chicken thighs because it has this more juicier part of the chicken, so it doesn't dry out. But if you don't like the dark meat, you can definitely use the thighs. I mean, excuse me, you can definitely use the breasts. We all make mistakes, don't we? All right, I got my rice is boiling, so I'm going to turn the heat down on that to a simmer, and we're going to time that for 15 minutes. Got my timer somewhere around here. All right, that's going to come down to a simmer. Our pot stickers are starting to fry up a little bit. We just got it going on in here today. Nice. These are doing good. I'm going to kind of move them around a little bit. You can hear them sizzling. Woo! And I just put them in the skillet frozen, just like they are, out of the bag. And I got this at my local Walmart. My everyday tour of Walmart. All right, this chicken is cooking good. Looking good. We're going to flip these over so we can get the top side brown. Wow, they're just jumping out of this pan. Turn that down just a little bit. I'm holding this lid like it's a shield from the grease. Look out. Ah. There we go. That's looking good. Chicken's looking good. You're basically trying to cook some of the liquid out of this chicken because where it's been marinated, it absorbs some of the flavors and the liquid. So kind of want to get it cooked down to where it's almost searing it a little bit. That's why I'm stirring it kind of frequently so they don't burn. And you remember they had brown sugar in the recipe, so that's going to kind of start caramelizing the chicken. Going on. It's getting a little hot in here. A little hot in here. All right, that's great. Good. And on our pot stickers, they're doing really well. I'm going to hold my shield up again and flip them back over on the bottom side. Like that. And then we're going to add a little bit of water. I don't know, about a quarter cup I added. And then we're going to let them boil off, and we're going to cook that down until the water is all absorbed out of there, and then they'll be done. Man, that's looking really good. Oh yeah. Look how that's getting good and brown. That's what you want. Really good and brown like that. That looks good. So I've been cooking these down. The liquid's coming out of it. Most of the liquid's gone. That's just a little bit of the oil that's in the pan from where I sprayed it. Just helping to brown this chicken. Bourbon chicken we're making that we marinated for at least 7 hours. Marinate it overnight. And we're also going to be cooking the bourbon out of the sauce, out of the marinade. Nice and brown. Perfect. Those are going to turn those down just a little bit. They're bubbling away. Okay, so now we're going to add our preserved marinade. That's going to slow our cooking down for just a minute. There we go. That's good. And it's also kind of deglazing the pan where I had that chicken cooking really high and it was getting brown. Left little good bits on the bottom. This kind of helped deglaze it. Deglaze means where it pulls the goodness off the bottom, all the little sticky, crummy stuff that gets onto the bottom when you're frying up something, and it gets into your sauce. It tastes so good. All right, we're doing good. So we got it bubbling really good over here, coming together nicely. And you want to cook this down a little bit, about 15 minutes to get the bourbon out of here. And if you don't want to use bourbon, you can use substitute apple juice for it. It'll be just as good. I know some people are funny about cooking with alcohols. They thinking that they're going to get drunk or you're going to get something from it or your kids are going to get in it. But when you cook it on the flame like this down, alcohol burns right out of it. We've got our timer going and our rice is just about done, and our pot stickers, I'm going to remove the lid off of that so we can get that water absorbed in there. And they get soft. That's why you want to put a little crunchy to them before you put the water in there, because they're soft. They're so good in that sauce. The sauce that they give me is so good. I wish they put it in the jar so I could buy it. Maybe I'll write the company and ask them. Everything smells so good in here. And when you put your rice on, you don't want to lift the lid to keep checking to see how it's doing. You want to give it a good 15 minutes before you can begin to lift the lid. And then when you do lift the lid, you just want to make sure all that water is absorbed in there. If it's not, just kind of leave the lid off and let it continue to cook a little bit, and you want to remove it off the heat. Things are going good in here today in Cinda's Delish. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you watching my show. If you really like it, you can hit like for me, or send me a comment, or subscribe, and you'll get notifications. I'm always having good recipes I'm cooking for you every day. There's our timer. That's for our rice, and we're going to check that right now. Oh, it's looking good. You want to just take a fork and kind of fluff it? Oh yeah, that looks good. So we're going to turn that off, and we're going to take it off the heat. I'm going to put it on this burner that hasn't been cooking. Fluff that up. That looks perfect. Perfect. That was 1 to 1, so that means if you're doing, this is for 4, so I did 2 cups of water to 2 cups of rice. If you are doing less than that, you can do 1 cup of water and 1 cup of rice, but you want equal amounts. That's what get you the best results for this rice. All right, our bourbon sauce is cooking good. We're going to start to thicken up this marinade and make a gravy out of it. So I have 3 tablespoons of cold water, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And you just kind of mix this together to kind of make a slurry. And you want to always, when you're using cornstarch, you want to always make sure that your pot is bubbling. Whatever you're thickening, make sure the liquid is to a boil. Otherwise, it'll clump up. So we're going to stir that in. I'm going to keep that stirring. Keep our heat where it's at. Pot stickers are looking good. Oh yeah, that's starting to thicken up nice. Just takes a minute to start thickening it up. You want to just get it nice and thick. We're just going to make that great gravy to go over our rice. It's doing good. I'm just going to let that cook for just a minute and get it nice and thick gravy for us to go over our rice. Our pot stickers are done. I'm going to turn the heat off of those. And our rice is already off the stove, so we got it ready to serve. It's looking good. It's thickening up nice. I'm going to cut this is that sauce that comes with the pot stickers, so I'm just going to cut the little corner off like that. I'm going to pour this in a little dipping dish, so we can dip those yummy pot stickers in there. It's perfect. And I'm going to plate us up some food. We're going to plate our dinner. Yummy. Get a nice little heaping spoon of rice. Right there. Nice. That looks great. I got all my burners off, even though my chicken's still bubbling a little bit. I'm going to pour a little potato. Let's just pour a little chicken on there. A little gravy. I was thinking potato because of the gravy. There we go. That looks good. Put a little pot sticker on the plate. There we go. Doesn't that look yummy? Looks great, doesn't it? All right, let's give this a try. So sweet. That brown sugar really gives it a lot of sweetness. That chicken's real tender. The rice is perfect. Let's try one of these yummy pot stickers. The pot stickers I got are pork, and they come in chicken as well. I do like both of them. I've got pork today. Just dip this in my sauce here. skillet gives a nice, crisp, crunchy outside. It's really good. Well, thank you for joining me today on Cinda's Delish. I enjoyed cooking for you. I appreciate you coming back. Please subscribe and hit my like button. Give me any comments to help me make this show better for you. Thank you. Good night.